When you think of ancient heroes, what comes to mind? Probably these flawless, larger-than-life characters, right? Well, the story of Gideon, it's just not that. It's something else entirely. It's messy, it's real, it's this raw, honest look at what leadership is really about. It's basically a masterclass in psychological warfare and a powerful study of how someone can go from being completely terrified to, well, to changing the world.
Okay, just picture this for a second. It's pitch black. You're on a hillside and you are massively outnumbered. I mean, it's not even a fair fight. And your weapons? Get this, not swords, not shields. You've got a trumpet, a torch, and a clay pot. Yeah, that's it. So this single line, it just drops you right into the middle of all that tension. It shows you just how much this whole crazy, brilliant plan is hanging by a thread.
So, how in the world did we get here, to this desperate moment on a hillside? Well, let's back up. For 7 long years, the nation of Israel has just been crushed by these Midianite raiders. I mean, imagine, every single harvest, they just swarm in, steal all the food, and leave nothing but devastation behind. People are literally forced to live in caves. Their spirit is just broken. So you see, this story, it doesn't kick off on some glorious battlefield. Nope, it starts in the shadows.
And it's in those shadows that we meet our hero, Gideon, and the contrast here, it is just stunning. A messenger from God shows up and calls him a mighty warrior. A mighty warrior. But where is he really? He's hiding. He's literally in a wine press, a pit for stopping grapes, trying to thresh wheat in secret so nobody sees him. The greeting could not be further from his reality. It's more than just ironic, though. It's this incredible lesson that, true leadership potential, it's often hiding in the most unlikely, most insecure places you can imagine.
So does Gideon just leap up and accept his new title? Not a chance. His response is, well, it's bitter. It's full of doubt. And honestly, it's super relatable. He's basically asking, okay, if God is with us, then why is all this horrible stuff happening to us? Where are all those miracles our parents told us about? He's really just voicing the pain and confusion of an entire generation. And it's that raw, unfiltered honesty that makes his journey so compelling.
So his first big test, it's not to go fight some massive army. It's much closer to home. He has to challenge the status quo in his own town by tearing down an altar to a false god. And how does he do it? He does it at night with 10 servants because he is terrified of what his neighbors will think. And that's such a crucial insight right there. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about taking action even when you are. This small, totally fearful act of defiance, that's the first real step in his transformation.
Okay, so tearing down an altar in the middle of the night, that's one thing. But leading an entire rebellion against a massive occupying army, that is a whole different ballgame. Before Gideon can even think about taking that next huge step, he needs to be absolutely certain this whole thing is real. He needs proof. And this isn't about him having weak faith. It's about building a foundation solid enough to stand on when you're facing an impossible task.
So what does he do? He comes up with these 2 incredibly specific tests. You can't fake this stuff. First, he asks for a sheep's fleece to be soaking wet with dew while the ground all around it stays completely bone dry. And guess what? It happens. A bowl full of water comes out of it. But even that's not enough for him. So he asks for the complete opposite. This time, a totally dry fleece on dew-soaked ground. And when that happens too, well, that's it. All his excuses are gone. The path forward is crystal clear.
All right, now that his faith is rock solid, Gideon finally sounds the call to arms. An army gathers. But this is where the story takes a turn that no military strategist in their right mind would ever advise. The goal here isn't to get bigger. It's to get smaller. To win by subtraction. It's a pretty radical idea, right? That sometimes to win, you actually have to shrink your resources to sharpen your focus and rely on a totally different kind of strength.
So at first, he gets a pretty respectable force together. 32,000 men, all ready and willing to fight for their freedom. Now, by any normal standard, this is the moment you start running drills. You sharpen swords, you get ready for war. But that is not the plan. The first cut is purely psychological. The command is simple. If you're afraid, you can go home. Now just imagine the guts it takes for a leader to say that. And in an instant, 22,000 men, that's more than 2/3 of his army. They just turn around and walk away. See, the strategy here is to build an army based on commitment, not just on sheer numbers. But you have to imagine what Gideon's thinking as he watches them leave. The odds, which were already bad, have just become terrifyingly worse.
And believe it or not, even 10,000 is still too many. So there's one last test, and this one is all about readiness and awareness. It happens down at a spring. Anyone who gets down on their knees, puts their face in the water, dropping their guard, they're sent home. It's only the guys who stay alert, who cup the water in their hands to drink, always ready for an attack, they're the ones who get to stay. And the final number? Just 300, a core unit of 300 men.
So, let's just recap here. We have 300 men, and they are about to attack an enemy army of over 100,000 soldiers. An army described as being like a swarm of locusts covering the land. The tension is just off the charts. On paper, this is not a battle. This is a suicide mission. But on the night of the attack, Gideon gets one last absolutely astonishing piece of assurance. He sneaks down near the enemy camp, and he overhears a soldier telling his buddy about a dream he just had. A dream that predicted Gideon's army would win. Can you imagine? Hearing his own name spoken in fear by his enemies, that was it. That just erases every last shred of doubt he had. And the strategy they use, it's an absolute masterpiece of psychological warfare. This isn't about a physical attack. It's a full-on sensory assault. Think about it. A sudden, deafening blast from 300 trumpets all at once. The shocking crash of all those clay pots smashing at the same time. The sudden blaze of torches appearing out of the darkness, making it look like a huge army. And then, a terrifying war cry from all directions. The whole thing was designed to create the illusion of an overwhelming force and trigger absolute, sheer panic.
And it worked. It worked perfectly. In all that terrifying chaos, the Midianite soldiers wake up in a panic, thinking they're surrounded by this gigantic army. They freak out, they start turning on each other in the darkness, and they flee in total